name is Ruramiso Mashumba. I am an advocate for agriculture. I strongly believe in commercial agriculture. I'm the Africa lead for the Global Farmer Network. I strongly believe that it is important for us as farmers to start having conversations amongst ourselves. So when you have farmer to farmer conversation, so much happens. And I strongly believe that we should continue networking amongst ourselves and sharing the technologies that we use.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the AGRA podcast. We're joined by an exciting guest. I have Miss Ruramiso Mashumba, and she's the CEO and co-founder of Mnandi Africa and is also the Africa lead for the Global Farmer Network. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to just give our viewers a taste of some of the work that you do. Ms. Mashumba is a Zimbabwean farmer, entrepreneur, and also an advocate for rural women in agriculture. And the role that she plays at Mnandi Africa is really coming from the focus of reducing poverty and malnutrition in rural areas. And she's also the first woman to lead the Zimbabwe Farmers Union Youth Wing. Accurate, right?
Thank you very much.
Really great resume. But before we get into an in-depth discussion of some of your work and the organizations, I really want to just get to know you a bit. And I'm going to start us off with a rapid fire segment, something we do with all of our guests. So the first question is, what is your best food memory?
My best food memory. So I think I would say that it was pecan nuts. When we were children with my brothers and sisters, we would go. We had a pecan tree outside at the back of our house, and I remember we used to just be exploring and wondering what was this, and then somehow people used to say it's poisonous, it's poisonous, it's poisonous. I think no one actually knew what pecan nuts were.
Right.
They weren't as popular like they are today. So we actually crushed them with a stone, and then we opened and we tasted. And it was like a bazaar. So we used to enjoy eating them all the time. So I think when I think of my one of the early memories I have of food, I just remember those things that we used to discover, and they were growing in our garden and would enjoy them. Yeah.
And it remains consistent. Every time we have our guests on, the food memory is always connected to a much larger memory. It's usually family, friends. So it's interesting that you bring your sisters and your brothers into this. But also, I think yours comes with an interesting one as well, discovering something new, right?
Yeah.
Our second rapid fire question is, if you were to have a basket of food that best represents the African continent, what would be in your basket?
The whole African continent. I think I'll have a pumpkin. I feel like there's so many stories to be told about the pumpkin and how if you go to the villages and you're visiting someone, and people in the villages, they are very generous. They like to give something, and you find that something that they normally have in the garden that grows in lots of homes that I've seen is the pumpkin. So they'll give you a pumpkin to carry home with you. So I think the pumpkin really shows the warm hospitality of our African villages and our African homes.
I like that because I think it's actually, pumpkin is also connected to a core memory of mine. My dad had group pumpkins on a hill, and everybody that passed through the farm left with a pumpkin. So it also, this symbolism of what it means for gift giving, being generous. I quite like that. I'm going to go into our discussion. Maybe it's a bit of a reflection point as we speak about memories and all of these ideas. When you think about our continent and over the last 10 years, what do you think have been some of the missed opportunities for us around food systems? I think we are in a time where we just had the state of food and nutrition insecurity report come out, which shows hunger continues to rise on the continent. We've had the Africa Food Systems report come out, which has shown us that while productivity is increasing, this progress is also uneven. From your perspective and the farmers' networks that you're involved in, what do you think have been some of these missed opportunities?
I'll definitely say just commercializing agriculture. One of the challenges that I see a lot is that many times when we're talking about African agriculture, we look at it from a communal poverty level, and even our interventions are based on the mere basics, never really on uptake of good technology to really scale up. Yet when we look globally into the other farmers, because being part of the Global Farmer Network, I also have the opportunity to network with farmers in Argentina, in the US. You see that farmers really have invested a lot in technology to really make sure that they're their farming is precise. There's precision farming. They're looking at, measuring different nutrients and all that. So really looking at it on a commercial level and how can we, every square meter, produce the maximum yields. When I look at Africa, I see we're still talking about the hand holes and we're still okay with it. We're still talking about very primitive methods. So unless we start seeing it as a commercial business, there's a missed opportunity there.
And you speak about the handhold. I think one of the discussions I've had with some of the guests that have come has also been around mechanization. So thinking about mechanization going alongside the commercial opportunity. But I want to kind of delve a little bit deeper when you say commercialization. What do you think is the commercial opportunity that exists there within agriculture and food systems, whether it's for young people, but everybody else generally, even for economies?
Okay, so it differs from different country to country, but like what I'm seeing is that so my organization, Mnandi Africa, one of the pillars is that we support our farmers is access to tractors for hire. So most of our farmers are on 1 hectare land. That's the max. That's the average data we collected. That average is 1 hectare. So what we do is that we lease out tractors for them to use. And some of the data that we noted was that before our support with the tractors, the farmers were actually using the ox to plow, and it was taking them 2 days. And they needed 10 people sometimes to help with clearing and what. And, it was quite a labor-intensive process. Now with the tractor, they do the job within 1.6 hours. So they're more efficient, they're faster, they're planting on time. And, farmers are excited and happy. And when we're actually calculating the cost for the hire of the tractors in comparison to the ox, it was the tractor was actually 50% cheaper than the cost of hiring ox in our community, because a lot of farmers don't actually have ox. They have to hire from someone else. So some of these are simple methods that people should take up, and people are happy because some of the farmers with more land, they could now, instead of 1 hectare, they can now do 2 hectares because farmers are chasing the rains. So they are they're planting as soon as it rains. So if hiring an ox, the ox is in someone's field for 2 days, another field for 2 days. By the time it comes, the rain is already gone. So some of these methods, they really help the efficiency of our farmers. So we need to start seeing more of these practices where farmers are actually using machinery to plant, machinery to harvest, and other methods that can improve even processing and value adding their crops.
So would you say this idea of getting efficiency up, having mechanization also is quite a unique way to then turn these small-scale farming into thriving businesses, so that we actually think about farming as businesses?
Absolutely. Like sometimes we have an idea that these people, they will resist, they like things like this, but I live in my rural area and that's where I farm. And I have conversations with the women all the time. They're like desperate for fresh ideas because these people are compounded by too many challenges on a day-to-day and they don't see their life improving. They also want to be able to own, like maybe one day buy a car. They want to be able to do other things, for their lives. They don't enjoy living the lives they live. So they're desperate to know how can they increase. And sometimes one of the conversations, we used to train a lot on the maize because it's a staple crop and we're having challenges of achieving high yields for our farmers. But some of the conversations that I've had with farmers is, what about other crops? And farmers are like, as long as they're interested, but they didn't know the knowledge. So we also trained on potato production. And the farmers now can grow. We've had some farmers now grow potatoes. And then these are high value. And lots of young people also coming on board, enthusiastic. And they're saying, we're working other jobs, driving trucks or whatever, but they're raising money so that they can dig dams. They can. So there's lots that's happening in the rural areas. But how do we put the support and scale up? These initiatives would really, really make a huge difference for agriculture sector.
Okay. I want to dive a little bit deeper into Mnandi Africa. I think when you speak with a lot of passion about what the farmers are doing, what they are going through, and how we can sort of improve the context in which they are, so that we're moving towards commercial, we're moving towards business opportunities that improve livelihoods. I want to talk about the founding of Mnandi Africa and what drove that. What does the business do now? What does the entity do now?
All right. So Mnandi Africa, our vision really is to safe-proof our farmers from the severe climate that we're seeing. Something that we are guaranteed for sure is that the climate will keep on intensifying, or continue seeing droughts, La Ninos, El Ninos all the time. But what are we going to do about it? Because we can't remain waiting for aid to be able to eat as people, because aid is also shrinking, and also we need to move to a middle class economy. So Mnandi Africa, our first intervention is we really go in and train our farmers on conservation agriculture, regenerative agriculture methods, so that they can increase their yields. We train in local languages with our field officers, the people on the ground, on their farms, on our demo plots. They come and we do really practical. So it's not like trainings that are in books where people can't really relate. We train, we demonstrate. This is what you do. This is how you plant the seeds, apply the fertilizer. We do 5 modules, beginning with training on pre-season, like understanding the season this year. What are we expecting the rains and how can we prepare? We demonstrate them. We do trainings on planting and fertilizer placement. We do also on spraying, identifying pests and diseases, protection. Lots of people don't even know how to wear gloves, the safety wear, not to wash the bottles of chemical and then to use them for sugar or whatever. We also talk about that. We talk about not taking those bottles and taking the water in the river and using to making sure that you safeguard we talk about that as well. We also then talk about harvesting, post-harvest, and we also just recently introduced business skills, record keeping and managing. And then we also do awards for the ones that have implemented the best and can show to the other community. So that's really our first pillar. And then we also have farm machinery, because we strongly believe that it is important for every farmer who's going to farm to start using technology. So we lease out no-till, because we are a big advocate for conservation agriculture, which is another technology which hasn't really been uptaken a lot in Africa. So we lease out the farm machinery, and now we've also introduced inputs, because one of the challenges we're hearing our farmers talk is that, we get trainings and support, but, we're not bankable. So where can we get inputs? So we also give them inputs, and then we buy back, and then we sell to our markets. So yeah, that's what Mnandi Africa does.
That's very exciting, because one of the challenges that has been brought up in multiple conversations across the board, but also within the sector, is the challenge we still face with extension services. But you touch on a very important point around being able to do demos, because this industry, unlike others, you actually need physical demonstrations in addition to the modules. So it's quite exciting that you're doing that. Could you maybe just speak a little bit more about extension for viewers that don't know that sense, so that they have a better appreciation of that?
Yeah. So when I first moved to the farm, like I just finished my my degree, and I moved back, I used to always wonder why our farmers were struggling. And then one day in the morning, I was walking and I saw a lady cooking by the fire. She had a young girl actually cooking by the fire. She had a baby on her back. And I said, "Aren't you going to school?" She said, "Oh, no, I'm not going to school because my parents are working in the field somewhere." Then I realized that the reason why a lot of our farmers don't have access to knowledge is because they never actually, a lot of them never went to school. They can't read and write. I used to ask them to sign, and then you can see the way they're signing that they can't even, so they're not. So then how then do we capacitate those people to understand agriculture at their level? So you need to really understand the level of literacy in your community, the level of access to education, because you can't develop sophisticated material in a book and expect it to be used in Africa if the people who you are using for are the most marginalized, which is majority of our farmers are smallholder farmers. Of course, we have commercial farmers, but majority are smallholder farmers. So how do we then go to at their level and start having these discussions with them? And so then we realize that it's through these trainings. Yes, we have extension in Zimbabwe. We have our agriculture extension officers as well, who do great work. We also work in partnership with them. We train them as well. Because I'm I've studied a lot on, I even did my dissertation on conservation agriculture and how it can support smallholder farmers. I also train our agriculture extension officers in the community, the latest technologies, and together we also go in and support our communities to be able to build their capacity. But without extension, you can't begin to to work, because people really need to understand what they need to do. Because sometimes there's small, simple things like testing their soil for the acidity, and then sometimes applying lime. Something simple like that is very important to just support. If you just supported farmers with that, you would change yields. Just one intervention.
If I tell you what I've heard around being able to just have the right kind of data, and yet the people who are doing the actual farming, the farmers, not having that kind of information and the data that is needed, and the kind of drastic change that happens when they do have access to that, but much more the means to be able to collect that information for themselves. It's such a game changer. Now, off screen, you told me a bit about your reading and reading very interesting pieces around this idea of how do we think about how we change our communities, how we end poverty. And I got the sense from you, I bring it up because I think that it's also something that is driving you in the passion that you have for the work that you do. And from that perspective and all the influences around you, I guess my question is, what if you had sort of this one idea for our sector and Africa's food systems, because our pod is transforming Africa's food systems, what would that idea be that you would want to scale, and what are some of those elements that would need to be there for it to come to life?
Definitely, I would say let's start commercializing agriculture. Let's move from subsistence to commercial farming. And let's look at it from that lens. Let's start supporting our farmers to access the latest available technology at their scale. So that will cut across from planting all the way to harvesting and storage. So let's start looking at it like, how do we create that sort of infrastructure so that we're able to start commercializing agriculture? Because if we continue farming with the hand hoe, people are getting tired and, all sorts, and they get little rewards. Then they sell on the road. There's all the, post-harvest losses that happen. There's no processing. We're not really going to go far. So we need to start looking at it at, different initiatives that we can do to start commercializing agriculture slowly, and less on what we did in the past. Because what we did in the past clearly has not helped, because 10 years later, people are still struggling. So let's start having fresh minds, fresh ideas, and move to a new chapter.
Amazing. If you had one sentence that you would like people to remember this conversation by, what's that sentence?
Commercial agriculture? Yeah.
I've found that it's quite refreshing to hear so many people thinking about what is the thing that is actually going to change livelihoods, and I quite like that. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. My name is Mwando Chilesha. This has been the AGRA podcast. Thank you.